Well, hello everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to our 5th video wine tasting. This month, we are focusing on a broad and diverse range from the New World. So we're looking at wines from Australia, Argentina, New Zealand, and Chile. Now, for those of you tuning in for the first time, this is how it's going to work. We taste through 8 wines. There'll be a bit of an overview before we start with the first wine, and then there'll be a brief voiceover before each wine we taste. Now, also, we'll be looking at cheese pairing, recipe matching, and also I'll be making reference to times we've actually visited some of these wineries when on tour. So, we're going to get cracking straight away. The first wine will be coming up any second now, but before that, get your glasses ready. Get your pen and paper ready. There's going to be just a short voiceover just to give a quick summary of what's coming up. Our focus this month is a broad look at 4 New World countries: New Zealand, Australia, Argentina and Chile. Of course, we can't do justice to all of them in just 8 wines, but the wines we do taste reflect the consistency and quality to value for money ratio that we've come to expect. For each country, I have some key facts, and we're going to start with Chile. As you can see from the wine map, Chile's wine regions extend 600 kilometres north and 600 kilometres south of Santiago. There are 126,000 hectares planted, 70% of which are red grapes, and Cabernet Sauvignon is the most popular grape variety, accounting for 1/3 of all plantings. Climate is affected by the Andes to the east and the Pacific Ocean to the west, which creates a bewildering variety of microclimates in the valleys in between. Our first wine is the Montes Casablanca Sauvignon Blanc 2019. That's in the 75 centilitre bottle. It comes from the excellent Montes winery. Established in 1988, they have quickly become a leading player with a top-class range of everyday through to iconic wines. The Casablanca Valley is situated between Santiago and Valparaiso, whereas the half bottle comes from the cooler part of the Aconcagua Valley to the north of Santiago. Both wines are fermented at cool temperatures and receive no oak treatment. Okay, so our first wine is the Sauvignon Blanc 2019 from the Montes estate. Now, for those of you tasting from the half bottles, this is the Aconcagua Valley Sauvignon Blanc. We'll be tasting in full bottles the Casablanca Sauvignon Blanc, but this is the half bottle 2019 Aconcagua Valley Montes Sauvignon Blanc. Now, Aconcagua, as I've already said, just to the north of Santiago, and this Sauvignon Blanc is produced quite close to the coast, so we're looking for some clean, fresh aromatics first of all. So let's give it a swirl, break up the surface tension, release the aromas, give it a good snort. And I think straight away we get that characteristic freshness that you expect from Sauvignon Blanc, but to me it's quite tropical. So there's definitely a bit of there's passion fruit, there's melon. It's I think oozing to see sort of these sort of ripe sort of fruits. Very, very fresh, very, very appealing. As I've already said, no oak at all stainless steel fermentation, and that lovely ripe freshness comes through very clearly. Okay, let's give it a taste. And then palate-wise, I feel the freshness really delivers exactly what the nose was suggesting. So ripe, good acidity, lovely freshness, mouth tingling, lovely length, really good finish, and delivering to me a very, very good benchmark example of Chilean Sauvignon from the Aconcagua Valley. It's just easy drinking, versatile. So those of you that are tasting the 2019 from full bottle, this is the Casablanca Valley Sauvignon Blanc from Montes. And Casablanca Valley, again, as I've already indicated, situated just to the west of Santiago, very close to the sea, and was Chile's perhaps most celebrated cool climate zone of production. So colour-wise, relative to the half bottle, it's ever so slightly paler in colour. On the nose, a little bit fresher, so more sort of citrus. There's definitely sort of herbaceousness, bit of gooseberry, sort of akin to perhaps a little bit of sort of New Zealand Sauvignon style, but it's that sort of perhaps that little bit of extra freshness sort of coming through on the nose. And then palate-wise, Clean, fresh, again good acidity, and a lovely sort of gooseberry herbaceous flavour on the palate as well. Absolutely super. And I think, as you all have come to expect, I put quite a lot of time and effort into researching the cheese and food pairing. And I think with Sauvignon Blanc, as we've covered before many times, the classic wine partner for goat's cheese. So I've decided to head back to an old favourite of mine, which is an English goat's cheese, an English hard goat's cheese it's called Rachel's Goat, from down in Devon. And I think this will go absolutely perfectly with it. Now I have some right here, as you see, the classic, very pale in colour. And the texture, it's not too obviously goaty like some goat's cheeses can be, but lovely texture to it, lovely flavour. And then with the wine, the sort of the freshness of the Sauvignon Blanc, just sort of marries beautifully with the cheese. So a lovely comparison. Another opportunity to really enjoy this Rachel's Goat's cheese, celebrate English cheese. And then from a food pairing point of view, I think what we're looking for is something that's going to go with this sort of fresh style. Now, the acidity is important, and I think what we're going to do with this one, I think pair it with a little sort of bowl full of garlicky prawns, sizzling, would be absolutely ideal. A bit of crusty bread just to sort of mop it up. This would also be great with some asparagus and some hollandaise sauce, or perhaps even just simple like some grilled sardines. I think any of those would be a perfect partner for this.
Australia is the 6th biggest producer of wine in the world. With 146,000 hectares of vineyards planted, Shiraz accounts for 30% and Chardonnay for 16%. Despite these facts, white wines account for 45% of production, followed by red at 40%, with sparkling and fortified accounting for the balance. The Australian wine industry contributes $45 billion to the Australian economy. And some other trivial points that are of interest: that Australia has some of the oldest vines in the world, some of which are more than 130 years old, and the most expensive bottle of Australian wine sold was back in 2012, a bottle of Penfolds 2004 Kalimna Block 42 Cabernet Sauvignon, which sold for 168,000 Australian dollars. So our second wine tonight comes from Eden Valley, the Dandelion Vineyards, Riesling 2018. Situated about 70 kilometres northwest of Adelaide, it is a cooler climate region within the Barossa and provides the vines with the all-important altitude, with elevation of between 380 to 500 metres. Riesling thrives in this area, and Eden Valley competes with Clare Valley in producing the most lauded styles. Characterised by refreshing acidity and minerality, the best wines can age for 10 years or more. Zara and Eleanor Brooks at Dandelion source top quality fruit from a range of vineyards, endeavouring to produce highly typical styles of the region. This wine is unoaked and bottled with minimal fining and filtration.
Okay, so we're now moving on to the second wine, which is the Riesling 2018 from Dandelion Vineyards. Now, Riesling, just such a fantastic grape, so versatile, so incredible at every level, ranging from absolutely bone dry through to lusciously sweet. Now, this is from the Eden Valley in South Australia, around about an hour east of Adelaide or thereabouts. And situated, well, the vineyards are situated a little bit of altitude, so they're getting that sort of fantastic diurnal day-night temperature differences. And I think with this style of Australian Riesling, first of all, what you're going to get on the nose is absolutely benchmark classic lemon and lime aromas. Really fresh, really intense. You might be getting a bit of citrus peel, a bit of candy fruits maybe, but really vibrant, really fresh. And for those who are really picky, you might be getting just that little hint of forecourt, maybe a slight oiliness, or some people might even say petrol. But to me, it's not pronounced, and I think the sort of the lemon lime, that distinctiveness, that intensity is coming through much more strongly. But there is just that sort of little sort of lining, if you like, of oil as well on the nose. But to me, that's all part of the joy and appeal of the wonderful Riesling grape. So that's the nose. Let's move on to the palate now. Very much delivering what the nose was suggesting. So really fresh, lovely acidity, that crisp, clean lemon lime, grapefruit. Sort of pink grapefruit sort of emerging for me. Really fresh, really intense, and I'm getting this really resounding sort of finish. Long length. I can taste it for quite a long time after I swallowed it. Absolutely delicious. Food-wise, really versatile. Now, cheese-wise, what I've opted for is another English cheese, and this is a soft, sort of brie-like style, which melts when it's nice and mature, called Cremette. Comes from Berkshire, cow's milk, and I have a little bit here. Absolutely perfect condition, really just oozing now. So beautifully creamy. And I feel the acidity is just going to cut through that richness absolutely perfectly. Which it does, absolutely super. And the sort of that creaminess, the lemon lime, makes it a lovely sort of pairing. Now, food-wise, again, lots of versatility. Two thoughts here. Number one, a sort of a salt and pepper, chili and garlic, pan-fried squid. I think would be absolutely sensational with this. Again, that acidity would just sort of balance out the sort of the spiciness and the richness, but also as a main course, I think perhaps even a little bit of sort of perfectly cooked pork belly, lovely little bit of crackling, a bit of Asian spice on top, would also be a perfect match with this.
New Zealand is the 14th biggest producer of wine in the world, but pales into insignificance almost relative to the giants of Australia, Argentina and Chile. 80% of New Zealand wine is white, with the majority being Sauvignon Blanc. Her wine regions extend 1,000 miles, from the top of the North Islands through to the most southerly vineyards in central Otago. Marlborough alone produces 70% of all New Zealand wine, which is astonishing given that there was virtually no wines until the mid-70s. Cloudy Bay, launched in 1985, is seen as the start of the region's success. New Zealand exports 80% of what it produces, with the UK, USA and Australia being the most important markets. Our third white wine of the tasting takes us to Marlborough and to one of the best known estates, Villa Maria. Created in 1961 by Sir George Fissenich with just 1 acre, it now employs 250 staff, grows 28 different varieties and exports to over 60 countries, and claims to be New Zealand's most awarded winery. The Southern Pass Pinot Gris comes from a specific site close to the Awatere River. 20% was fermented in old barriques and the rest in stainless steel, followed by a further 4 months on the lees. It has 7.7 grams per litre of residual sugar, so it should taste perceptibly off-dry.
Okay, so our third wine is the Pinot Gris from Marlborough in New Zealand, and this comes from the incredibly well-known estate Villa Maria. And while they're perhaps better known for their volume brands, this is their Southern Pass Pinot Gris, which is a limited production, small volume, step up from the sort of the mainstream range. And I think straight away, with the sort of the first two wines, they've all been stainless steel fermented, no oak at all. What we're going to pick up here first, I feel on the nose, is there's a little bit of barrel fermentation. So 20% of the wine was barrel fermented, and the rest of the wine was all stainless steel. So that little percentage will just give a little bit more weight, a little bit more texture, a bit more interest, a little hint of vanilla perhaps coming through. But lovely sort of pale lemony gold in colour on the nose. Now straight away, I think you get that extra weight, that extra richness, that texture. There's a definite sort of ripe sort of citrus fruit coming through. Again, a little bit sort of candy peel. And for me, just a sort of little sort of honey note which may be suggesting something maybe just soft dry on the palate, but definitely sort of lovely, rich, rounded, and nice bit of citrus, bit of tropical fruit coming through now as well. Okay, let's give it a taste. And then I think absolutely delivers what the nose is suggesting. That little hint of honeyedness is just suggesting just a little bit of off dry notes on the palate. It's not sweet, but not dry. It's just that just say off dry sort of style, which I find very, very attractive. Lovely as an aperitif. But the mouthfeel, the texture, the weight, I think very harmonious, very balanced, very well integrated. Lovely length, lovely finish, nice balancing acidity. It feels fresh, refreshing, a little bit of mouth tingle, and lovely length. Really, really super. And again, this style of wine with that little bit of off-dryness to it makes it a great, really versatile. So cheese-wise, first of all, we're going to head back to another old favourite of mine, which is the Puzzone di Moena. And Puzzone, northern Italy, not far from Milan. And it is a washed rind cheese, so it's going to be characteristically slightly pungent. Cow's milk, let's give it a little bit here. Lovely texture. Let's give it a taste with the wine. And I think again, it's the off dryness just works with this sort of style of cheese. It's quite the cheese is quite textured, a little bit of pungency to it, a little bit of bite, and the off dryness, the sweetness just marries harmoniously with it. Now, a slightly challenging food pairing to put your way. I've come up with smoked eel with horseradish. Now, I think this could be rather a good match for that. But if eel's not your thing, if horseradish is not your thing, then I think a sort of Thai style fish cakes could also work extremely well. Again, sort of that Thai oriental spice will marry harmoniously with sort of the richness and the off-dry style of this wine. Cheers.
We head back to Chile for our fourth wine and our first red. This is the second wine from the acclaimed Montes winery, and it is made from 100% Cabernet Sauvignon in the Colchagua Valley, which is 160 kilometers south of Santiago. Some of Chile's finest red wines are made in this valley, predominantly from Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah and Carmenere. Colchagua is a little bit cooler than the neighbouring Maipo Valley, but maintains a Mediterranean climate with the Pacific Ocean offering a natural cooling influence. The best sites are on steep slopes on the edges of the coastal mountains with free-draining granitic soils that allow optimal amounts of vine stress. Colchagua Valley is a fairly new region, and many wineries have been constructed with tourism in mind, leading it to be gaining a reputation as Chile's Napa Valley. Of the wine, 45% of the final blend was aged in new French oak for 8 months.
Okay, so the first of the reds, and this is the Montes Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, this is the 2018 if you're in full bottle, and we'll taste the 2017 in half bottle as well. Now, Montes, very big, well-known estate, have done a fantastic job for promoting Chile and Chilean wines, and this is their Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, both full bottle and half bottle are from the Colchagua Valley, which is a couple of hours south of Santiago, and it's a great production area. This is where Montes have their HQ, and this is lovely, vibrant red in colour. 2018, still showing a hint of sort of purpliness at the rim. So give it a swirl, take the nose, and I think straight away, vibrant berry fruits. I'm getting sort of maybe even a little hint of eucalyptus sort of coming through on the nose, but very lively, very fresh, feels quite youthful on the nose. So let's give it a taste. On the palate, it's spicy, it's rich, nice berry fruits, moderate tannic structure. But for the price, I think I'm not expecting something to be supremely long-lived. But nice, fresh, vibrant, well balanced. Now the 8 months barrel aging feels nicely integrated into the fruit and the acidity. Nice length, nice finish. So that's drinking really well. 2018. We'll just compare that with the 2017 in half bottle, and I think colour-wise just lost that sort of purpley hue from the extra year's age, but on the nose, again, spicy, rich berry fruits, so a lot of similarities. Perhaps not the same level of freshness, but that's not to criticise it. But still that little hint of eucalyptus, so definitely that sort of theme running through both wines. Okay, let's give it a taste. And again, spicy, nice richness, nice weight, perhaps a tad more fuller-bodied than the 2018 in overall weight terms, but lots of similarities. Good weight, good balance, good harmony, nice length, nice finish. And I mean this is a £10 Cabernet, so I'm not expecting huge amounts, but very competent, fresh, well made, easy drinking, and again pretty versatile. Now, cheese-wise, put this down, I'm suggesting another English cheese, and this is a Cornish yarg. So cow's milk cheese wrapped, it's actually a garlic yarg, so it's wrapped in wild garlic leaves, which adds a little sort of garlicky note to the cheese. So, little taste. I love this texture and that sort of little garlicky tang that runs through the cheese with the wine. It's a nice partnership because that garlickiness, just sort of marries harmoniously with a little bit of spice in the wine. Lovely. Ooh, I do like that. Food pairing. A couple of thoughts on this one. This would be great with some simple, lamb cutlets or grilled lamb, and maybe a vegetarian option. Some stuffed portobello mushrooms, and particularly if we can add in a bit of sort of chopped porcini into that as well. So a little bit of sort of texture, a little bit of sort of meatiness of the porcini, I think would be a great partner with this wine.
Argentina is the world's 5th biggest wine producer, with viticulture dating back to the 16th century. Malbec is the principal grape, and more is grown in Argentina than anywhere else in the world. The Mendoza region accounts for 70% of production. Interestingly, land and labour costs are approximately $30,000 per acre. In contrast, in the Napa Valley, the figure is $300,000 per acre. Argentina has some of the highest vineyards in the world, and the USA, UK and Brazil are its most important export markets. Malbec is the focus of wine number 5 of our tasting, and as we all know, this grape has been a phenomenal success, and there is a huge range of quality tiers, culminating in the top wines from single vineyards costing well over £100 a bottle. These can be seen as great value relative to the stratospheric prices in Bordeaux and the Napa Valley. Most Malbec is produced around Mendoza city, but our wine today comes from the Calchaquí Valley in Salta, over 1,000 kilometres north of Mendoza. The Amalaya Vineyards are located in Cafayate, in the very heart of the Calchaquí Valley, distinguished for being one of the highest wine regions in the world. The climate is very dry, with just 150 millimetres of rain in an average year, and huge diurnal temperature fluctuations of around 20 degrees. The soils here are rocky, poor and sandy, so the roots of the vines are forced to dig deep to find the vital nutrients and water they need, which results in fruit with hugely concentrated flavour. 25% of the wine is aged in French oak for 10 months prior to blending and bottling.
Okay, so our next wine is the Malbec from Amalaya. Now, Malbec needs no introduction. It's the great variety of Argentina, but most Malbec comes from around Mendoza, which is obviously the wine capital of Argentina. This particular example comes from Salta, to the north. Now, Salta, as many of you will know, is renowned for Torrontés and benefits from a lot of high altitude vineyards. So the Malbec styles are a little bit different, without losing the essence of what Malbec is all about, rich, intense, spicy, but sometimes you get this sort of perhaps a sense of purity coming through. Now, colour-wise, this is the 2018 vintage, still vibrantly red, still a little bit of purpliness coming through, indicating the youth. So give it a good swirl, give the nose, and I think straight away it's fresh, it's clean, it's spicy. To me, there's a sort of a mixture of sort of forest fruits, an earthiness to it, slightly sort of savoury, sort of notes coming through on the nose as well. Okay, let's give it a taste. And I think everything you'd expect from a Malbec. It's rich, it's spicy, it's got a nice tannic structure, but on this occasion, without being overly tannic, lovely length, and there's a lovely sort of clean, pure fruit mouthfeel. So I've got layers over sort of the teeth, mouth and gums, layers down as you swallow, but it's really sort of clean, rich fruit. Very well balanced, very harmonious. 25% of the wine spends 10 months in oak barrels, and I think that adds to sort of the richness and the weight that's coming through with this wine. Now, food pairing wise, cheese, I think not for me. Well, for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest. Perfect cheese for this for me is Comté. Many of you will be familiar with Comté, French, Alpine cheese. And to me, they're a classic partner for red wine. So let's give it a go. This has got a couple of years age, so maybe picking up just a little crunch coming through, little sort of salt crystals that emerge after aging. That's a lovely partnership. Lovely rich cheese, lovely spicy fruity wine, absolutely fantastic. Now, food wise, it's obvious, isn't it? It's steak, however you like it, grilled, fried, but something meaty. You need that sort of texture. This would be, it's a nice, for me, perfect grilled rump steak, bit of pepper sauce, a little bit of side of dauphinoise potatoes, a few green beans, and I'm away.
The famous Barossa Valley is the destination of our sixth wine and the second from Dandelion Vineyards. The Barossa is one of the best known areas in South Australia, renowned for its very old vines and powerful full-bodied Shiraz. Peak temperatures can hit 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but the rolling hills give altitude and the all-important diurnal temperature differences which benefit the grapes. There is a significant growth in other varieties as well, and Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, Semillon, Riesling, Grenache, Mourvèdre and Viognier are all well represented, and the area has a long history of fortified production. The Dandelion Lionheart of the Barossa is made from 100-year-old Shiraz vines, spends 18 months in used French oak barriques, and is bottled without filtration or fining. It is named after Carl Lindner, who was a passionate advocate of maintaining the old Barossa vines and the heritage they represented.
So our next wine is from Australia. This is the Dandelion Vineyards Shiraz from the Barossa Valley. Now, the Barossa Valley, renowned, famous, and hugely famous for its stunning Shiraz. Now, we have the 2017 in half bottles, and we have the 2018 in full bottles. We're going to taste both. And first up, this is the half bottles, 2017, that we're going to taste first of all. Now, colour-wise, as you might expect, sort of medium into, fully intense and red. Lovely sort of, it's like garnet notes, showing just a hint of the age. But on the nose, first of all, straight away, spice. Rich, spicy on the nose. Lovely sort of berry fruits, blackberry, particularly coming through for me. There's a hint of sort of dustiness. Makes it very, very attractive. There's a sort of really ripe fruit, So extremely appealing on the nose, first of all. So let's give it a taste. And delivering exactly what the nose was suggesting. Rich, spicy, peppery, lovely sort of berry fruits, and a great mouthfeel, real richness, real weight, real sort of depth of flavour, depth of fruit. As I said already in the voiceover, some of the fruit comes from 100-year-old vines, lovely intensity, lovely length, lovely finish. The oak is there, it's present, but it's not overpowering. And to me, this is a really, really rich, lovely wine. So that's the 2017 in halves. Let's just taste the 2018 in full bottle. Colour-wise, it's a little bit deeper, a little bit more purpley red, with that extra age, well, the 1 year less in age. So nose-wise, really punchy, really fresh, fruity, spicy. So a contrast to the 17 and a half bottles, but just a contrast as opposed to better or worse. This is perhaps just vibrantly more fruity, but say lots of berry fruit, hint of blackcurrant there. Perhaps also the sort of the vanilla oak is just a little bit more prevalent, but let's give it a taste. And that sort of vibrant, fruity, peppery punch comes through very much on the palate. Again, similar to the 17 and a half bottle, lovely weight, richness, full-bodied, spicy, nice mouthfeel. Tannins perhaps just a hint more pronounced, as you might expect from a wine that's a year younger, and again, great finish. Now, cheese-wise, my suggestion for this is a mature Gouda, and I have one here. So lovely, lovely hard Dutch cheese. Give it a taste. And that Gouda has that lovely, creamy, dense texture. Let's give it a go with the Syrad. And it's a lovely partnership because I think there's something about the texture of the cheese. It has this sort of creamy density, lovely maturity. This is probably 36 months old, and it just harmonises with the sort of the spicy fruitiness of the wine. Now, food-wise, I think this is a very versatile wine. This could be fantastic with, again, grilled steaks, burgers, barbecue fare, or perhaps spare ribs. I think that sort of cuisine, I think caramelised flavours, but equally this could go with a slow roasted beef casserole, but I think anything rich, slow roasted, caramelised, this would be absolutely super with.
For our seventh wine, we head back to New Zealand and to Martinbro, which is situated just 90 minutes north of Wellington at the bottom of the North Island. Some of New Zealand's most respected wineries can be found here, and yet it wasn't until the late 70s that vines were planted and the early pioneers were ridiculed by those who thought viticulture couldn't thrive. How those early pioneers are laughing now. Ideal climate and soils mean that world-class Pinot Noir and Chardonnay are made here. We visited Atarangi on tour in 2014 and had a stunning visit and tasting hosted by owners Clive and Phil Payton. This Pinot Noir is their top cuvée, made from the best vineyards, with the wine spending 11 months in French oak, 35% of which was new.
Our final red comes from New Zealand, and this is one of my favourite New Zealand estates, Atarangi. We had 3 fantastic visits on our tours to New Zealand back in 2014, and Atarangi, absolute legends, wine-making legends, Pinot Noir pioneers in Martinbro, just to the north of Wellington, and most delightful people who own the estate. And aside from all that, they regularly win top awards, gold medals, trophies, you name it, they are always winning. So we have one of their top estates, top estate wines. This is their Atarangi Pinot Noir, and comes from their oldest vineyards. And we've got both the 2016 in half bottle and the 2017 in full bottle. Now, colour-wise, as you can see, it's sort of medium in colour, as you might expect from Pinot Noir. The 16, which I'm tasting now from half bottle, showing a little bit of garnet colour at the rim, so just indicating a little bit of age. But on the nose, first of all, spicy, earthy. To me, a little bit of sort of farmyard coming through as well. So there's classic sort of almost Burgundian style Pinot Noir. It's not overblown. It's got this lovely sort of rich spiciness without being sort of overblown fruit-wise. So lovely, very, very appealing on the nose. Let's give it a taste. And glorious mouthful of earthy, really well balanced red fruits, sort of bit of sort of cherry, raspberry, that sort of texture. But then on the mouthfeel, on the palate, it's weighty without being too heavy. It's spicy, and it's just lovely sort of texture over the teeth, mouth, and gums. Lovely weight and beautiful finish, as you might expect. Really long, really pronounced, but just feels powerful yet elegant, beautifully harmonious, absolutely delicious. So let's contrast that with the 2017. Now the colour of the 17, just maybe a little bit paler, maybe not quite so discoloured at the rim there. Nose-wise, again, this lovely, rich, fruity spiciness, again with the benefit of a year's youth or being a year younger, maybe just a hint fresher, a little bit more vibrant, punchy fruit on the nose, but very, very attractive. Give it a taste. Spicy, rich. Again, the sort of the youth, that extra year, or the fact it's a year younger, coming through. It's a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more punchy. The fruit just feels maybe a hint more closed than the 2016, but I have the benefit of being able to compare the two. Beautifully balanced, beautifully harmonious, elegant, lovely richness, lovely weight. I say just that sort of, maybe the tannic structure is just a notch more pronounced, but both beautiful wines, beautifully elegant, beautifully indicative of what Marlborough Pinot Noir is all about, and testament once again to the amazing Atarangi estate. Now, cheese-wise, I've gone for Burgundy as a homage to Pinot Noir and Burgundy, and we've got some Sumantrin, one of my favourite cheeses. Let's give it a go now. Wonderful soft cow's milk cheese, very much similar to a Poisse, and a Poisse could also work equally well. But lovely richness, lovely pungency, beautiful taste, and with the wine, it just cuts through that sort of richness than the pungency of the cheese. Pinot Noir for me is always a great partner with this style of cheese, and this works absolutely perfectly. So Sumantrin, Pinot Noir, absolutely unbeatable. And then food-wise, I'm thinking a couple of French classics. Confit of duck, I think would be absolutely super. Once again, I think with some Dauphinoise potatoes and some green beans, or coq au vin, another Burgundian classic, I think would be absolutely super with the Pinot Noir.
A sweetie to finish, and our third wine from the Montes winery in Chile. The Gewürztraminer fruit is sourced from the Curacao Valley, about 200 kilometres south of Santiago. The grapes are picked late to allow some botrytis to establish. With a really rich grape must, fermentation is stopped at 12% alcohol by volume, leaving 155 grams per litre of residual sugar. A deliciously unctuous wine to finish our tasting.
So, our final wine of our tasting of New World wines, and we're going to finish off with a little sweetie, and this is the late harvest Gewürztraminer from the Montes estate in Chile, and the fruit comes from the Curacao Valley to the south of Santiago, and this is basically Gewürztraminer grape, late picked, late harvest, So it's not noble rot, it's not botrytis, it's just super ripe grapes. And when they press the grapes and ferment it out, they get to 155 grams per litre of residual sugar. That is sweet by any standard. So colour-wise, it's a glorious gold, richly golden colour. And then on the nose, first of all, I think straight away it's rich, it's honeyed, it's dried fruits, it's sort of spice. There's sort of, they say that sort of fruit and nut spiciness sort of coming through, dried apricots, enormous amount going on with the nose here. So very, very exotic, tropical fruit, very, very appealing. Okay, let's give it a taste. And as you'd expect, it's lusciously sweet. Now, Gewürztraminer is a naturally low acidity grape. So generally speaking, sweet wines with Gewürztraminer can often feel not sticky, but think just a little bit more bite. This is modest acidity, so it is quite sticky. It's quite rich. It's definitely unctuous. But as a style, I think it's delicious. This would be delicious with rich pâtés, foie gras if you eat that. But perhaps an apple strudel, or alternatively a mango mousse, just flavoured with a little bit of ginger. I think this could be absolutely perfect with. And then cheese-wise, just to finish off, you've had dessert, onto the cheese on this occasion, and I'm going to suggest another English cheese, and this is an Oxford Blue, classic blue-veined cow's milk cheese. Let's give that a little taste. Now, it's textured, tasty, not too strong. Some blue cheeses can blow your head off, but this is sort of between. This is just rich, nicely balanced, nice pungency without being too intense. And I think with the Gewürztraminer, it's a really super match. Lovely richness, the sort of the salty blue, just paired absolutely superbly with the sweetness of the Gewürztraminer. A delicious final cheese and wine pairing. So that concludes our 5th online video tasting. We've looked at a fascinating selection of wines from the New World and tasted a broad range of grape varieties and styles. As ever, I would like to take this opportunity of paying enormous thanks to Julia, who has once again directed, edited, re-edited again, and most of the time maintained a smile on her face. And I'm also especially grateful because she's actually come down, especially from Swansea, just to do the filming of this video. So Julia, thank you very much indeed. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.